Okay, so this is set and let's commence, I guess. Where do we start? Yeah, here it is. Right. Okay, so today is chapter 14, Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga. Okay, this is about the heading is the three modes of material nature. Okay. We already know broadly what are the three modes of material nature. One is sattvic, the other one is rajas, and the third one is tamas, right? So what we are going to see as such today is the characteristics and elements of these three things: guna, traya, vibhaga yoga. Okay. But first, we always pay our respects and our obeisance to Srila, to the temple deities of ISKCON Mangaluru, Sri Sri Radha Govinda, and our most respectful obeisance and our pranams to our Master, Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Preshtai Bhutale, Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namini, Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharini, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasatyadi Satarini. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadara, Shri Vasadi, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Just a quick recap of yesterday's chapter. Yesterday was, as I mentioned quite a few times, it was a complicated chapter. I hope you've all taken the effort to read the purport of the Bhagavad Gita as it is book by Srila Prabhupada. Keep at it, and the pieces will definitely fall into place. Okay, this is the overview of what we are going to study today. So we have three headings broadly: conditioning of the modes, the characteristics, actions, and what happens when a person dies in those modes, and then how do we transcend in those modes. Because I've mentioned this before in class, it's not sufficient if one is sattvic all the time. One has to go beyond that, right? And that is by the way of bhakti. So it's not enough if you are in the top level, which is sattvic, but then you have to go beyond that, over and beyond that. Okay, so that's what we are going to deal with today. So three broad headings. It's a short chapter, so let's try and complete it within time. 14.1. The Blessed Lord said, "Again I shall declare to you the supreme wisdom, the best of all knowledge, knowing which all the sages have attained to supreme perfection." So again, this is a chapter which begins without any questions from Arjuna, right? But Krishna volunteers more information. We've already seen the reason why. I have described that when the disciple is special, the guru treats him as a friend, right? And the guru tenders advice in different aspects. And Krishna here refers to sages. And we of course know that the devatas are not gods. They are much like administrators. Like we have crores of administrators, right? They are not very different from the government in that sense. The government also has employees, and so do the so are these sages. They are basically representatives of Krishna to whom certain functions have been delegated, right? Okay, so in this picture, actually, the picture on the right is a scene from Srimad Bhagavatam where the sages visit King Nimi. This is in Canto 11, okay, of Srimad Bhagavatam, when they visit him and he asks them various questions. So one of the questions was, how do I detect an incarnation in the Kali Yuga? Okay, and then the sages predict actually the appearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right? See, the point is this: before speaking about the subject of the next few verses of this chapter, the Lord is actually giving us a premiere of it. Okay, it's like a trailer, right? So what is the advantage you would get if you hear this chapter? Krishna says you will attain supreme perfection, right? Shuddha phala. Okay, that's 14.1. Let's go to 14.2. By becoming fixed in this knowledge, one can attain to the transcendental nature, which is like my own nature. Thus established, one is not born at the time of creation, not disturbed at the time of dissolution. So more Shuddha Phala. Again, Krishna is saying that if you do this, this will happen. So what is, if you do this, the first part of this is by becoming fixed in this knowledge. And what knowledge is that? The knowledge that Krishna is going to give just now, right? So Krishna says that if you understand this, you can attain to the transcendental nature, which is Krishna's own nature. So Krishna's nature is what? Krishna's nature is transcendental, right? And what happens eventually once you get to this nature of Krishna, you will not be born, because that is where the trouble starts, right? The moment you're born, that's where the trouble starts, right? So Krishna says, assures in fact, that you will not be born again, not be disturbed at the time of dissolution. Now dissolution, we have seen every end of the Sandhya period is when the dissolution, partial dissolution happens, and then we have a full dissolution when the time of Brahma comes to an end, right? So that is partial dissolution and full dissolution. So this is the dissolution that Krishna is referring to in 14.2. Okay, 14.4. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Chaturdashodhyayah Gunatraya Vibhaga Yogaha. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha.
Aham bij pradam.
Sarvayonisho kaunteya murtaya sambhavanti yaha tasam brahma mahadyone aham bija pradapita. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. It should be understood that all species of life, O son of Kunti, are made possible by birth in this material nature, and that I am the seed giving father, right? So we've already seen Krishna saying that he is the mother, he is the father, he is the grandsire of the universe, right? So again, that is what is again repeated here by Krishna by saying that he is the seed giving father, right? So in a certain way, Darwin's theory is out, okay, because Krishna says that he is the origin of all things. But then, even in the second chapter, it is out because the second chapter starts with this teaching that we are not the body, but we are the soul, right? And then science is still getting to grips with what soul is, right? So the science hasn't gotten around to it. So as such, today science is still lagging behind to the transcendental knowledge. But though it's trying to make efforts, it still has a long way to go. But probably, eventually, perhaps, we don't know. If you are wise enough to use science properly, perhaps science can catch up. But see, at the end of the day, as it stands now, science says everything is a coincidence. The universe formed because of a coincidence, and the Big Bang theory, which we saw in quite some detail, that does not give a cause literally for it, because we only know what has happened after 3 seconds of the entire universe forming. Right? Before what caused it, we still don't know, right? So keeping all that to one side, Krishna here says he is the seed giving father, which means it is from Krishna that everything has arisen, right? So we have to understand that science has its place. It's just that you cannot give it the supreme place that spirituality demands. That's the problem. If you are going to think that science is supreme, that would be a problem. Okay, if you are able to approach this entire spirituality versus science debate with this attitude that that it has its place, but it's not that place which spirituality demands, then there should not be any conflict between, as such, between spirituality and science, right? So that's 14.4. Let's go to 14.5. Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Sattvam rajastamayiti gunaha prakrti sambhavaha nibhagnanti mahabaho dehe dehinamavyayam.
Material nature consists of three modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. When the living entity comes in contact with nature, he becomes conditioned by these modes, right? So that's what the initially Krishna, when Krishna started the chapter, he explains what is the result of knowing this knowledge, right? And now Krishna is saying, he's giving us an introduction specifically as to the elements of material modes of nature. So Krishna says, like, these are the headings that we are going to deal with in the chapter. Okay, well, what are those headings? We are going to examine the elements of goodness, passion, and ignorance, right? And Krishna also says that when the living entity, we are the living entities, right? When we come into contact with nature, we are conditioned by three modes, by these three modes, right? So the moment we are born, Maya takes hold, right? Material nature takes hold. Maya captures one as soon as he is born, right? And what is Maya composed of? Maya is composed of these three elements, right? Goodness, passion, and ignorance. Thereafter, our entire life is governed by their interplay, right? So we have to be conscious when we take decisions which enable the mode of goodness to prevail over rajas and tamas. But the ultimate end, as I've explained before, is not just to be sattvic, right? The ultimate goal is to break free from these three modes. Now, as I've explained before, each person is a combination of these three natures, right? So no person is going to be entirely sattvic or entirely tamasic. Okay, it's that, and it'll come a little further down the chapter, that all the three modes of nature compete for a person's attention, right? So it's up to that person as to what material mode of nature he wants to conduct himself in. Okay, so all this we will just see in a moment. Okay, let's see. Next chapter, next verses 14.6. Hare Krishna.
तत्र सत्त्वं निर्मलत्वात् प्रकाशमनामयं सुखसङ्गेन बध्नाति ज्ञानसङ्गेन जानगा.
O sinless one, the mode of goodness, being purer than others, is illuminating, and it frees one from sinful reactions. Those situated in that mode develop knowledge, but they become conditioned by the concept of happiness. So we are first taking up the mode of goodness, right? So Krishna is saying that um, for those who are in the sattvic mode, that's the mode of goodness, uh, it is illuminating. Basically, it is illuminating, and it frees one from all reactions, which is the problem. See, karma is what is generated every time we act, right? So Krishna is saying that, but being in the sattvic mode slowly frees you from all sinful reactions. But the problem with sattvic mode is this: you are attracted to happiness. You want to be happy. Therefore, you do things for your own happiness, right? So that is the problem with being sattvic. Okay.
Let us go for a stroll in the countryside. Look. I brought us a healthy picnic lunch. The air is clean here. So peaceful. Here we can get away from the agitating elements of the city.
Right. So what we just saw was a part of a copyrighted video. Neha Mataji, please make a note that we need to circulate this after class. This is about 35 minutes video, and it explains the material modes of nature very beautifully. It's done by the devotees in the Scandinavian countries. I think probably Ireland. I'm not sure. Right. So do watch this. It's a very well portrayed uh, drama of the material modes of nature and how they act upon individuals. So you would see this person in gold, right? So he is sattvic. Now you are going to see him in red and also in another color, right? And how they are impacting this person in white is what the entire drama is about. Okay, this video is copyrighted, and besides, we don't have the time to see that entire drama, right? So please make time to see the drama. It's very pleasant to see this, right? So now we've witnessed what, I mean, we have examined what sattvic broadly is. Okay, so let's proceed further. This is 14.7. Now we are going to see about rajas. Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्ण. रजो रागात्मकं विद्वे कृष्णा संगसमोद्भवं तनिबध्नाति कौन्तेय कर्म संगेन देहिनम्.
The mode of passion is born of unlimited desires and longings, O son of Kunti, and because of this, one is bound to material fruitive activities, right? So, as I mentioned, this verse describes about rajas, right? The mode of passion. Two characteristics define this mode. What are those two characteristics? The first one is unlimited desire, okay, and the second is longings. That's why Krishna says that a person who is bound, the person, the result of such a person is the second part of the verse. The result of such a person is that he's bound by the material fruitive activities. Basically, what do you get when you do that duty, right? So they want the fruits of their action. Mostly you'll find people like these in Rajasic mode in a very competitive workplace, right? That's where they thrive. They're all hard workers. By definition, they're all hard workers because they are attached to the fruits of their labor, right? So due to this, there is a lot of frustration, anger, and envy and jealousy. Okay, so what is it? We say cutthroat competition, right? These are people who you would often find saying that work is worship without actually understanding its meaning. Work is worship only if you sacrifice your work to Krishna. We saw this in the Karma Yoga chapters, right? And then you do that work to the best of your ability and to his satisfaction. That is when work actually becomes worship. It's not just because you go out and do your duties day in and day out expecting the results of your duties. That's not when work is truly worship. These are all concepts that we'll have to understand, and just understand this level that this mode of passion is defined by two characteristics. They have unlimited desire, okay, and then they have longing. So both of these result in what they are bound by material fruitive activities, this need for material, enjoying the fruits of their action, right? So that is Rajas. Now let's see what Tamas is. Okay, I think this is the clip.
What are you doing, man? Out here working on your deck. I need something. I bet you forgot about Super Edition. You're supposed to take her to Vegas this weekend. You know, lose your money Vegas. You'll be rich. You'll reach the top. Just one hitch. You just got stuck. Just can't get it.
Right. So that is a short thing about how Rajas behaves. Okay, let's see what Tamas does. 14.8. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. तमस्त्वज्ञानजं विद्धि मोहनं सर्वदेहिनां प्रमादालस्य निद्राभिः तन्निबध्नाति भारत.
O son of Bharata, the mode of ignorance causes the delusion of all living entities. The result of this mode is madness, indolence, and sleep, which bind the conditioned soul. Right. So tamas is what? It is delusion, madness, indolence. Indolence means laziness, by the way, and sleep. Right. So these are the defining characteristics of a tamasic person. Right. The first two, that is delusion and madness, pertain to the mind, and the next two, laziness and sleep, indolence and sleep, they pertain to the body, right? So essentially smoking, drinking, any intoxicants for that matter are all tamasic in nature, right? So how do we know now that broadly we've seen what the three material modes of nature are? How do we know, what is the test to find out which mode are we in? Okay, so this is the recommended test. See what you do when you're free, right? So when you have no pressing commitments, when you have no exam, no work, what do we do? Right, so we take rest, no, we sleep late, and then we wake up later, much later, right? So and what all beds we have these days? We have like water bed, memory foam, so on and so forth. And they can get truly very expensive, right? And what do? We sit up, what's that phrase they use? Netflix and chill, right? So sleep and rest is, you should understand, is only for the body to recover, but we take it to another level, specialized level itself, right? So the moment you get some free time, just think about what you're doing. If you are going to sleep, and if you're going to spend time in bed without doing anything more constructive with it, for example, you can read, right? That comes under sattvic activity, because you're reading about Krishna, right? So that is a positive act, and it is devotional service also, right? So that will become sattvic automatically. But then if you're going to sleep thinking that's how you would like to spend your time, that's when you get to realize that you are tamasic in nature, by nature. That's what I meant, right? But the point is this: see, it's not that it is going to always take hold of you, right? There is sattvic also, this element of sattvic, which is also trying to take control of the situation and dominate, right? So you just have to make that effort, by use that amount of willpower and say, no, I'm not going to sleep, I'm going to in fact sit and read Bhagavad Gita, right? So that is that effort that we have to take up. Okay, so let's just see what Tamas is doing with this person.
I think you just need to chill with me. I got 6 packs in the fridge, play some video games, watch some TV, shut the curtain and just shut out the world. Good, huh?
So that's what tamas does. So it encourages um, delusion, right? And which results in what's the result of delusion? Madness, laziness, and sleep, right? Okay, so 14.1, 14.9.
सत्वं सुखे सञ्जयति स्रज कर्मणि भारत ज्ञानमावृत्य तु तमः प्रमादे सञ्जयत्युत.
O son of Bharata, the mode of goodness conditions one to happiness. Passion conditions one to fruitive action. And ignorance, covering one's knowledge, binds one to madness. Right. So this is the result Krishna is explaining of the three elements. So if you're sattvic, then you're hankering after happiness. If you're rajasic, then you act thinking only of the results, and you're so invested in them. And if you're tamas, of course, nothing matters. Laziness and sleep is for the for the body, and instability for the mind. So that this sloka gives you the results of what is going to happen. It's already there in the previous verses, but Krishna is crystallizing them. He's putting them all into one verse, right? Okay, so that's 14.9. Let's go on to the next one, 14.10. Sometimes the mode of passion becomes prominent, defeating the mode of goodness, O son of Bharata. And sometimes the mode of goodness defeats passion. And at other times, the mode of ignorance defeats goodness and passion. In this way, there's always competition for the supreme. I just explained this a little earlier, right? The three modes of nature are always present in a person. It's not that one is automatically full of one material nature. So these three modes are always there in a person, right? But one is usually dominant. One of these three are usually stronger. But merely because that one nature is dominant, it does not mean that the other modes give up, right? So they try to make the person act according to their own nature. Therefore, that it is that there is always competition between between the three material modes of nature. That's what Krishna is referring to. There is always competition for supremacy. See, it's like this slide here. So that's the mind, and you have these three material elements of nature, which are like trying to pull the mind to their end of the tug of war, right? So that is how the mind is being acted upon by these three elements of rajas, tamas, and sattvic. Okay, so that is just an example that I wanted to give you. Okay, we go on to 14.11. The manifestations of the mode of goodness can be experienced when all the gates of the body are illumined by knowledge. So there are 9 gates in the body, right? So 2 eyes, we have 2 ears, 2 nostrils, the mouth, the genitals, and the anus. So all this together constitutes 9 gates in the body. So so Krishna is saying that when it is illuminated, and how is it illuminated? It is illuminated by knowledge, right? And when we're rightly situated, we hear things in the right position. Then Krishna says one is cleansed from inside out, right? So it's not just the outside part which is cleansed. From the soul, the cleansing starts, right? That's 14.11. 14.12. O chief of the Bharatas, when there is an increase in the mode of passion, the symptoms of great attachment, uncontrollable desire, hankering, and intense endeavor develop. Okay, so this verse explains the symptoms of a person in Rajas. We've already seen it in the verse itself. What is the person of the of Rajas most interested in? He is attached to the fruits of his own work, right? So what happens? There's great attachment, first of all, great attachment to the fruitive results. And then there is uncontrollable desire. That's the problem. When you have uncontrollable desire, you start working like a donkey, right? So that uncontrollable desire has a direct impact on what you do for the rest of your life. You keep on working and working and working, right? And there is always hankering and intense endeavors. What I was just referring to when I was saying about this working concept, or like a donkey you work, right? So 4 things are mainly mentioned here, right? So great attachment that person has, and then there is always uncontrollable desire, and the third one is hankering. He hankers after the results. And then there's intense endeavor, because that person has this uncontrollable desire, so he wants uh, to get it done, right? And then get the fruits of that action. So mostly these people are going to be hardworking, right? As I was mentioning, they are like a donkey who only knows how to work, and then they miss the point of life. The point of life is to reach back to Godhead, right? It's not just to work hard and earn money and then get your usual run of the mill desires fulfilled, like a big car, a good looking spouse, a bungalow, high end mobile. all that are just the run-of-the-mill materialistic desires that everyone has, right? But then Krishna says that Chris here that one has to rise beyond that, and if you don't rise, of course, then this is the consequences of being in tamas. You have intense endeavor for what? For material benefits, which is not the purpose of the soul. And also, you wouldn't find a trace of spirituality in these people, right? So Rajasic people do not have a trace of spirituality. Sattvic people do, but they are much better than Tamasic people who just lie around sleeping the entire day off, right? So that's the capacity. We just have to look up at what Sattvic is again. 14.13. O son of Kuru, when there is an increase in the mode of ignorance, madness, illusion, inertia, and darkness are manifested. Right? It's like a sliding slope. There is a higher chance that if you start with cigarette, you're likely to indulge in liquor, and soon thereafter start breaking drugs also. What's the reason? The reason is this: the kick that you get initially with abusing a substance for the first time is not the kick that you get when your body is getting used to that substance, right? So therefore it is that you want to you start craving more and more because you want to feel that high, right? So that is the reason that this causes trouble. It's a sliding slope, as I mentioned, and we've seen this before. What does tamas cause? What does tamas cause? Tamas causes madness, illusion, inertia, and darkness, right? So that is how tamas operates. Okay, let's go on to 14.14. When one dies in the mode of goodness, he attains to the purer planets. Okay, we saw in the previous chapter what happens when about at the point of time, what we think about is what we get, what we achieve, right? So similarly here, Krishna is explaining the material modes of nature from the point of view of death. What happens when you are in a particular frame of material action, right? So this is a continuation in that sense of what we saw earlier, right? So you become what you think at the time of death. That's what we saw in the earlier chapters, right? This is just an extension of that concept. So that is why when you think of at the last moment, your memories are vital to your next birth, right? So this verse is pretty self-explanatory, right? So when one dies in the mode of goodness, they attain to the superior pure higher planets. So we have what 7 lokas above. So you get, according to your karma, one of those 7 lokas, which of course the highest one is the Satya Loka of Brahma, right? So that is that ladder that we have, the jail, which I've otherwise called, right? The point again always remembers to break out of this jail, not just go up and up till Brahma Loka, because you still have the 4 problems, right? You still have the problem of old age, you still have the problem of birth, death, and disease. So that's there in all the lokas, from the lowest to the highest, from the first one to the 15th one. We have this trouble. It's only that when you break break free, and go back and serve Lord at Goloka Vrindavan, that you actually get rid of this 4 basic elemental problems that we have, right? That's 14.14. Let's see what 14.15 is. When one dies in the mode of passion, he takes birth among those engaged in fruitive activities, and when he dies in the mode of ignorance, he takes birth in the animal kingdom, right? So if a person is Rajasic in nature, what happens? He takes birth in a place which is involved in fruitive activities, right? So earth is exactly that sort of a loka where people are engaged in fruitive activities. So they want to get that result, right? So basically it's a neutral reaction. You don't get to go up. But if you're tamasic in nature, Krishna says you're going to go down into the animal kingdoms, the other 7 lower planets, which goes on till Patal Lok, right? So that is what happens when a person is in tamasic nature. Okay, this is 14.16. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Karmanah sukrtasyahuः sattvikam nirmalam phalam rajasastu phalam dukkham ajnanam tamasah phalam.
By acting in the mode of goodness, one becomes purified. Works done in the mode of passion results in distress, and actions performed in the mode of ignorance result in foolishness. And this is a prime example of foolishness. This is a staircase that leads to nowhere, right? And of course, this is mode of goodness. Temples usually purify the soul and the body, right? So that's the temple. And here, this is all fruitive activity, right? So that's Rajasic in nature. That's 14.16. Let's go on to 14.17. From the mode of goodness, real knowledge develops. From the mode of passion, grief develops. And from the mode of ignorance, foolishness, madness, and illusion develop. So this is a pictorial representation. There is another slide which again depicts it, which is a very interesting one. See, if a person is sattvic, he's like cool, calm, and collected. And then there's this person who is going after this ring, right? The material benefit, the pursuit of material objects, right? And then this person is tamasic, totally confused, totally illusioned, right? Madness develops, right? So these are all just pictorial representations from the Lord of the Rings. 14.17, right? So this is what we saw just before. Again, sattvic, cool, calm, and collected. Rajasic, intense activity because of being attached to fruitive results. And of course, tamasic, we have totally a total madness, right? Ignorance in that sense. So that is the explanation of this verse, that Krishna says, what is the result of, again, being in those three material modes of nature. Let's go on to 14.18. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, sir. Urdvam gachanti sattvastha madhye tishtanti rajasaha chaganya guna vrittistha ago gachanti tamasaha.
Those situated in the mode of goodness gradually go upward to the higher planets. Those in the mode of passion live on earthly planets, and those in the mode of ignorance go down to hellish worlds. So this is a continuation, as is clear from the previous two verses, right? 14.14 and 14.15 verses, where we saw that what happens to a person who died in that three respective modes. Now this verse just expands upon what has already been stated. So 14.14, if you recall, said that a person who dies in the mode of goodness, he attains the purer higher planets, right? And here it says that you will gradually go upward to higher planets. And in 14.15, if you recall, it was mentioned that a person who dies in the mode of passion, he takes birth among those who are engaged in fruitive activities, which is this place. I mean, this is with this sloka, right? And when he dies in the mode of ignorance, what happens? They take birth in the animal kingdom. Here it says that you will live on earthly planets, and those in ignorance go to hellish worlds. So you see, the message is consistent, though, and actually, in a sense, it is actually only echoing what has already been stated in the previous verses of 14.14 and 14.15. And I've already explained why it is that there is so much repetition in Bhagavad Gita, because the message is so important, right? So it is that the Lord repeats, so that he makes sure that we understand why it is that he is repeating, right? So just keep that in mind. Okay, this we saw when we saw the Goloka chart. If you do not get out of this three things here, these 14 lokas here. So we have 7 lokas below us: Atara, Vitala, Sutala, Talatara, Mahatara, Rashtara, and Patala, right? So these are the 7 lokas which are below us. Now we have 7 lokas which are above us, right? So this is Bhuloka, this is here. So we are all here, right? So we have Bhuvarloka, Swargaloka, Maharloka, Jnanaloka, Tapaloka, and Satyaloka. Satyaloka is the abode of Brahma, right? So that's the highest of the earthly planets, of the planets, not just earthly planets. And you have again 6 other heavenly planets, which are much better than Earth. Now, this was explained, of course, during the Goloka chat explanation. So the point is this: we have to break free. And how do you break free? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. That mantra, the Maha Mantra, that is what will take us out of this prison and eventually get us back to Goloka Vrindavan, right? Okay, 14.19. When you see that there is nothing beyond these modes of nature in all activities, and that the Supreme Lord is transcendental to all these modes, then you can know my spiritual nature. As I mentioned, Krishna is beyond these modes, right? So he is the creator of the modes. The modes do not touch Krishna. Okay, his action entails no karma. Krishna's action does not give rise to any karma. I've already given the example of the president of India who comes into India. The laws of India, in fact, do not stricto sensu apply to the president, right? Okay. So the question then may arise: why did God actually create these 3 modes? God created these 3 modes because of our desire. This to satisfy this sense that we have developed, that we are the proprietor, in spite of the fact that it is Krishna who is the proprietor, right? So the moment you start desiring, right, that there is illusion which is created, Maya is created the moment we start desiring. So as Krishna says, he is the ultimate enjoyer, but then we want to displace him and we want to enjoy it ourselves. We forget this constitutional position that our a relationship with Krishna is that of a servitor. That we forget, right? That's why that's why we are here. What is this place? This place is a Dukhalayam Sasvatam, right? A temporary place of suffering. Right? That's why when Krishna says, "Come back, child," and the way to come back also he tells us in the Bhagavad Gita's devotional service, we still are not able to adopt that way and go back to Krishna, right? So that is something that we have to actively exercise our will, right, and adopt ways which are conducive to following, at least being sattvic, and thereafter at least transcend beyond being sattvic. So Krishna says here in so many words that the Supreme Lord is transcendental to all these modes. This means that the Lord is beyond the three modes of material nature. He is not bound by his creation, which we've already explained. Okay, that's 14.19. Let's see what 14.20 says. When the embodied being is able to transcend these three modes, he can become free from birth, death, old age, and their distresses, and can enjoy nectar even in this life. That is what Krishna is saying. You have to transcend these three modes. If you're stuck within these three, you only go up and down the ladder, right? That's no good. That's neither here nor being there, right? So a better world or worse world, that's all is characterized by this fact that you are acting either tamsikly, rasikly, or satvikly, right? So you have to transcend those three material modes of nature, and only then can you go back to Lordhead and satisfy the purpose of the soul. And what is that which takes us to Godhead? Surrender and devotional service. We've seen that in the Bhakti Yoga chapters, right? Let's see. 14.21. Arjuna inquired, "Oh my dear Lord, by what symptoms is one known who is transcendental to these modes? What is his behavior, and how does he transcend the modes of nature?" Right now a barrage of questions from Arjuna, right? You recall this is the same question that that was answered in the second chapter, right? When Arjuna asks this very same question, these very same questions, we saw about the Sitadir Muni, characteristics and symptoms of a Sitadir Muni. That was explained because of identical questions which were raised by Arjuna in the second chapter. So Arjuna is again asking Krishna, how do I recognize? What are the symptoms? Right? So Krishna gives us the symptoms in the next verse, 14.25, 14.22 to 25. So this is a culmination of three slokas. The Blessed Lord said, "He who does not hate illusion, attachment, and delusion when they are present, nor longs for them when they disappear, who is seated like one unconcerned, being situated beyond these material reactions of the modes of nature, who remains firm, knowing that the modes alone are active, who regard alike pain and pleasure, and look on a clod, a stone, and a piece of gold with an equal eye, who is wise and holds praise and blame to be the same, who is unchanged in honor and dishonor, who treats friend and foe alike, who has abandoned all fruitive undertakings. Such a man is said to have transcended the material modes of nature." So again, we saw humility being the first required characteristic in order to develop knowledge, right? We saw it in yesterday's class. Likewise here, the underlying thread is equanimity, right? So not to be disturbed by the dualities, good or bad, comfort or discomfort, honor or dishonor. We have to treat all of them the same. We have seen this in the 5th chapter itself, Pandita Samadarshana, right? So and we also saw it in yesterday's chapter. The concluding portion of the chapter was Pandita Samadarshana full and full, right? Because the super soul is there in everybody's body, right? So we have to see them as equals. See, once we break free from these dualities, we are free from everything, right? Now, in the next sloka, Krishna adds to this frame of mind, you have to join devotional service, then straight liberation. Okay, clod here, by the way, means a lump of clay. There's a word here. And who looks on a clod, a lump of clay, a stone, and a piece of gold with an equal eye. This is what is Pandita Samadarshana, right? So this equal treatment of all these perceivably different entities, right? Okay, so we go on further, 14.26. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Mam chayo vyabhicarena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate.
One who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstance, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. So how do you transcend the material modes? Short answer, be engaged in Krishna Seva. Simple, straightforward answer. Because Krishna says specifically in the first part of the sloka itself, one who engages in full devotional service, right? So again, call back to the Bhakti Yoga chapters, right? That is fully about devotional service. Again, Krishna is repeating here, for those who are engaged in devotional service, for them, they transcend the modes of material nature immediately, right? And they come to the level of Brahman. That's 14.26. 14.27 now.
ब्रह्मणो हि प्रतिष्ठाहम् अमृतस्य व्ययस्य च शाश्वतस्य च धर्मस्य सुख सैन्यकान्तिकस्य च.
And I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness and which is immortal, imperishable, and eternal. So even if you are inclined to see God as an impersonal form, even then it is Krishna you worship, right? But as mentioned earlier, it is like choosing a different route. It is it's like touching your nose from behind your head, whereas you can actually do it directly, right? So a wise person always chooses the way to do it directly, so that it's quicker, it's easier, right? And it delivers results much better than any other kind of ways to reach the Lord. 14.27 is okay. That's the conclusion of the chapter. So soon. Okay, that I told you this is a short chapter, right? So these are the we've seen what Rajas broadly. What is it that we have seen? We have seen the characteristics of each of the material modes of nature, right? And what are the material modes of nature? Satvik, Rajsik, and Tamsik. Hare Krishna Mataji, can you conclude, please?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Om Tat Satiti Srimad Bhagavad Gitasu Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Gunatraya Vibhaga Yogo Nama Chaturdashodhyayaha. Sarvam Krishnarpanam Astu. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you so much, Mataji. Right, so this is what we've seen today, right? We've seen the conditioning of the modes. Broadly, we have seen what are the three material modes, what is their characteristic, and what causes the result of a person who is in that particular material mode of nature, right? And then we saw the result of a person who dies in a particular mode of nature, right? And then how do you transcend the material modes? How do you transcend? Two things you have to do: devotional service, and surrender to Krishna. These are the two things that that can be adopted to transcend the modes. It's not adequate. I'm telling you again, this is if there's a takeaway from this chapter, it is this: it is not adequate to be merely sattvic. You have to have that bhakti. You have to surrender to Krishna. Without that surrender, you're going to be stuck between these 15 lokas. You'll either go up or you'll go down, right? You have to break out of this jail that we are in, right? So that is why we need to adopt surrender and devotional service. Okay, let's conclude with the Shri Guru Pranam. Om Angyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshur Unmilitamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Manchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. Thank you for joining. Before we go to Ashtakam, I'll just give you a few questions. Actually, these are poll questions which I'm supposed to have done it, but I'm not getting access to poll. Okay, so I have to get some tinkering done in the back end to get it activated. So I'll do that and then include this. But for the time being, perhaps I can just ask you one question. Okay, and the question would be this: when Krishna stole butter in his childhood days, his act of theft was sattvic. Your options are A, sattvic, B, rajasic, D, tamasic, 4, none of the above. Okay, so what is the answer? When Krishna steals butter, what karma attaches to it? Does he act in the mode of sattvic, or is he rajasic in nature, or is he tamasic in nature, or does it not apply to him at all? None of the above. What's your answer? Please post in the chat box. You can just give me the option numbers A, B, C, D. Hrithik Prabhu, wonderful. Yes. Then that's it. Only Hrithik has answered. What is the question not clear? Should I repeat it? None of Sulochana Mataji, of course. That's right. None. Because why? What is the reason? Can anyone say from the devotees side? Hrithik Prabhu, you can unmute yourself if you'd want. Or Slochna Mataji also. Please tell me the
Sir,
reason.
Krishna is not affected by any modes.
Yes, that's the answer. And why is he not affected by any modes?
He is transcendental.
Why is he transcendental? Because he's the creator. He's the one, yeah, he's the one who has created it, right? So therefore it is that he is transcendental. He is beyond it. And what you create is obviously going to be subordinate to you, right? So that is the reason. So I'll do something about these polls, and perhaps we can get it into motion from tomorrow. Let's see. Depends on the backend team. Let's see about that. Okay, so let's conclude this. Stop share. Thank you for joining. And where are we on Ashtakam today, Mataji?
Yeah, Amrita Mataji will be doing.
Okay, Mataji, can you please raise your hand? Yes. Make a host. Yes, Mataji, you're ready to go.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Namamishwaram Sachidanandarupam Lasatkuntalam Gokule Brajamana Yashodabiyonokaladhavamana Paramrishchamatyanta Dhritagopya Ruddhanta Muhurnetra Yugmamrajantam Karambochayogmena Shantakanetram Muhoshvasakam Patrirekakanta Stitagraiva Damodaram Bhaktibhatam Iti Triksvalila Kunde Swagosham Nimachantam Akhyapayantam Tadiyashitageshu bhaktirjitatvam Puna prematastam sata vrittibante Varam deva moksham na mokshavadhim va Nachanyam vrineham varishadapiha Idam deva purnada gopala balam Sada me manasa virastam kimanye Idam te mukam boja atyanta nilay Vritam kundalay snigdha raktaisha gopya Muhoshumbitam bimbarakadaram ne Manasa virastamalam lakshalabhe Namo Deva Damodarananda Vishnu Prasidha Prabodhuka Jalabdimagnam Kripa Drishti Vrishtyati Dinam Batanu Grihe Neshamamagnam Yadakshi Drishya Kuveratmajau Bata Murteva Yatva Tvaya mokshitau bhakti bhajau kritau cha Tata prema bhaktim swakame prayacha Namokshi graho me damodareha Namaste studamne spuradiptidamne Tvadiyadayaro vishwasya damne Namo Radhikaya Tvadiya Priyaya Namo Nandalilaya Devaya Tubhyam Namamishwaram Sachidanandarupam Lasat Kuntalam Gokule Brajamana Namamishwaram Sachidanandarupam Lasakundalam Gokule Brajamana. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Very nice
Hare
choice.
Krishna
today for
Prabhu.
Damodar
Since
Shtakam.
we have time, can we have one more Ashtakam?
Yeah, sure, Mataji.
This is Guruvashtakam. Sri Guruvashtakam. Samsara Dava.
Just a second. Guru Ashtakam, isn't it?
Yeah, Guruvashtakam.
Samsara?
Samsara Dava Navali.
Yes.
Nalalila
Got it. Yes, Mataji, ready.
Shri Gurvarshtakam. Samsara Dava Nalalila Loka Tranaya Karunya Ghana Ghanatvam Praptasya Kalyana Gunanavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Mahaprabho Kirtana Nitya Gita Vaditramadhyan Manasorasena Romanchakam Prashotaranga Vajo Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Samsara Dava Nalalita Loka Tranaya Karunya Ganatvam Praptasya Kalyana Gunanavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Shri Vigraharadhana Nityanana Shringaratan Mandiramarjanado Yuktasya Bhaktam Chariyojjatopi Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Chaturvida Shri Bhagavat Prasada Swadana Triptan Haribhakta Sangan Kritvaiva Triptim Bhajata Sadaiva Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Sri Radhika Madhavayora Para Madhurya Leela Gunarupanamna Pratikshana Swadana Lolupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Nikunjayono Ratikeli Sithaye Yayali Bheryuktirapekshaniya Tatrati Dakshad Adivallabhasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam साक्षाद्वरेत्वेन समस्तशास्त्रै उक्तस्तथा भाव्यत एव सद्भिः किन्तु प्रभोर्य प्रिय एव तस्य वन्दे गुरु श्री चरणरविन्दम् वन्दे गुरु श्री चरणरविन्दम् यस्य प्रसादात् भगवन्न प्रसादो यस्य प्रसादान्नति गति कुतोऽपि ध्यायन्स्तो वंस्तस्य यशस्त्रिसन्ध्यम् वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् संसारदावानलनीतलोका त्राणाय कारुण्य घनाघनत्वम् प्राप्तस्य कल्याण गुणार्णवस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् हरे कृष्ण
Mataji. Thank you. Any questions in today's chapter? No questions? Okay, then we can conclude. I'll just stop share. See you all tomorrow. Let's continue same time.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mataji. It was very nice.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Let's meet tomorrow.